there have been many, many times that I almost gave up, and it's one of the things that I think entrepreneurs don't necessarily share enough in their stories, is that there's just times where you just cannot see a solution to the problems you're facing. I think Warren Buffett, in one of his books, talked about one of the secrets to his success, which was finding entrepreneurs who have built something amazing and just can't see outside of their own box that they've painted, their own corner that they've painted themselves into. And then he buys the company, and the assets are worth a heck of a lot more than the entrepreneur sees them being worth. And then he puts his business acumen and his team's business acumen behind it and is able to grow those companies. So for Pono Home, I think there have been many times where I just was running out of money, didn't quite know exactly whether people were going to be willing to pay for the service in a consistent enough manner for us to continue to be able to employ people. I had people have quit, and that's been huge, where you spend a lot of time and energy training them, put a lot of money into them, and then they just sort of disappear, and then you're sort of left with nothing. And then we've had one major incident where there was a program that we put a bid in for, and we didn't get that bid, and then a giant multinational company ended up getting the exact contract that we had bid, and became, not only simultaneously did they take the contract from us, they then became a competitor, a direct competitor. And that was really tough to swallow. Wasn't sure if we were going to be able to figure out a way out of that situation. And so I thought very much about hanging it up at that point. So it was interesting.
You know, we've been really fortunate that we never really had a time when we felt like we were going to give up, or it was really hard. It's been a really easy, successful business for us. And just from the get-go, we were profitable. I think because we bootstrapped it ourselves. We didn't have very much overhead. I was, the builder, the tech support, everything, and then Mita handled all of the back-end financials and bookkeeping and sales. So, and initially we thought that we would just do it kind of as a side thing, kind of, if it generated $5,000 a month, just additional income, it'd be great, and it just kind of blew up, and we just made it a full-time thing, and that's how we went. But we never really had to struggle that much, luckily. Yeah.
In terms of a point where we were about to give up, it's really funny, actually. So before we did the wine app, we did the wine website, and then we were really looking at kind of creating this almost like a Yelp for cocktails. So we actually created a Yelp for cocktails like website, where you could rate the margarita at this place. It's completely different than the margarita at this place, right? So it's super item based at a location. So it wasn't just that this location was better than this one overall, it was that this margarita was better, but then this one had a better Bloody Mary. And so we were actually a little bit too kind of early for our time, and it didn't quite take off as much as we would have liked, unfortunately. And I think that was a time where we were kind of all over the place and trying all these different things. And we were self-funded. We had a decent amount of funding, just through my business partner and myself, mostly my business partner. And we couldn't quite, and he was a pretty strong developer, so we could build all these things. But we didn't have like a really strong mission in mind of what we wanted to do and what was our MVP, what was that, what was our value proposition. And there was a moment, and we were kind of not getting along very well, and I was really, about to kind of give up. My parents were like, Melly, you had a good career going. What are you doing now? You guys are kind of all over the place. So that was a few moments there where we were really struggling. And a lot of times that happens, like you're either, especially when you have a co-founder, things start to fall apart when you're either not doing very well at all, like things are going really poorly, or you're doing really well. So that was a moment where I almost gave up. But then we kind of hit our stride when we decided to do the wine app.
One of the biggest challenges is as the business grew, we needed to find a larger space to operate out of. So when we first started, it was just kind of working out of coolers and working out a pickup truck. Then it got to a point where we needed to have more space for cold storage. So we needed a warehouse that we're in right now, and then also a space where we can put in a refrigerated cooler. And that was kind of a big step we knew we had to make. And the space that we were working out of before, we had ran into some issues where the lease that we were paying, the person we were paying it to ended up basically not paying the master lease, so we were getting kicked out of our space. So I kind of came to that real critical point of, for us to be able to continue operating, we needed the right space to work out of. And if anybody's ever looked for any type of property in Hawaii or especially Honolulu, it's really hard, and we knew we needed the right space, something that we could afford, and a lot of different variables. And so there's a point where we were actually homeless for about a month, where the business was homeless. We were just kind of working out of a friend's restaurant in Kaka'ako and really, kind of just trying to keep the pieces together. But that was a time where we knew this was going to make or break. If we couldn't find the right space, we'd probably have to shut it down.
Gave up. Well, this is my passion, so there wasn't really a time I almost gave up. I do feel like I'm gambling, I feel like sometimes I'm saying, okay, here we go, wake up, throw the dice. And then we live in Hawaii and it's always sunny and it's beautiful and we make an excellent product and people are always, happy about it. And sometimes the way Hawaii works is if I have a thought like that, if I'm doing the right thing, within an hour I'll run into somebody that says, oh my gosh, are you the person who has that company, the soaps? I love it so much. And then I go, okay, we're on the right track, So
one time was actually pretty recent, actually in the past year. It started off, it was a trickle effect to a horrible year, but it started off with my van getting stolen. So, I had some capital in the bank, so it wasn't a huge financial, but it was kind of like, why am I doing this when people are taking advantage or stealing my product? And it really sent me down a bad path. But I had my van stolen, which had all my market equipment in it, my tables, tents, my products, like just a ton of stuff. And that kind of really set me back. I got it all, I got back online real quick, but it definitely hurt. But before that though, so I've been doing this for about 5 years. So maybe in the beginning, when I wasn't really making that much money, it was hard. You're waking up in the morning, like 5, 6, 7 days a week. You're going to there's a lot of physical work. You're driving to a market, you're setting up, you're selling. It may rain that day. Maybe nobody wants to buy things that day. Maybe you just don't make any money that day. And when you're doing that every single day and it's just not adding up, you're like, why am I even doing this? Or who am I even doing this for? When you could be doing something else. So that was a setback early on. That was like maybe 3 years ago. But then you just keep on trucking. You're like, I got to do this, got to improve. It'll get better. Maybe here in Hawaii, I found out my seasons are bad. So I have good sales seasons, like at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year, it's bad sales, and that really affects me. But something you just get through it. You just keep going.
I don't know that I've ever felt like giving up. I've definitely had moments of wanting to break down, and it is overwhelming. Especially, I started, 2 businesses with 2 different partners, and I think initially why I did that was potentially, I believed in both businesses always. I believed in the mission and what we were doing. But also not wanting to go work for somebody else again. It was kind of, a risk kind of assessment of, well, if I start 2, if 1 doesn't work, I kind of have, my plan B. And so what happened was that they both worked. And that has been, the hardest part is I think it's hard enough being involved in one business and making it, successful and operating it and doing all the things you have to do in a day. I have to do that with 2, and so some days is just extremely overwhelming. And so So I guess closest to answering the question is the moments where I really want to break down is when I feel like I have so many people that are dependent on me and that I'm not getting done enough what I need to get done to kind of support all of them and to manage expectations and not let people down within the company and external partners and all that stuff. So for me, that's a very prideful thing, is that people depend on me. And when I feel like I'm letting people down, that's kind of a tough pill to swallow for me. So.
When I flew to Brazil and I had an idea of what I wanted the workshop to be. And then all of a sudden I'm working with teachers only from Wizard English School, and it's very corporate, so they have to have things a certain way. So the months of planning that I did for my workshop, I found out, nope, we can't use any of that. You need to look at our curriculum, come up with a teacher training based on curriculum, and you need to do that in a week. And I was in a country where I didn't speak the language, never met any of the teachers before, and their curriculum is kind of dry. So I had to take this curriculum that I've never seen and create a whole 5-hour workshop in a week. So that was one of the points where I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why am I here? And then I figured, you know what? I spent all this money, I'm here, let's just try it and see what happens.